Follow the Blue by Kevin Cordi. My mother announces that we're going to the place where the lights swirl and everything is everywhere. A place where all my wishes reside. A place that I rarely see. Except this time was not that time. My 5 brothers and sisters, they'd always get to go before me. They'd get to go to this place because Mom said that she could only take one person, even though we had a 1970 yellow station wagon that was, well, it was mostly yellow, but it has some brown spots all over. We had to wait our turn to go to this magical place. And since I was the baby boy, except for my sister, Melinda, who was the baby girl, I had to wait the longest. But my mom announced that Steve could go this time, once a month. And Steve didn't even like this place as much as I did. But I got a plan. I got up really, really early, and I walked over to our station wagon, and it took all my strength. But I opened the door in the back, and I crawled in, and I hid, and I hid. And I was going to hide there until we're ready to go to this place. And I hid, and I hid. And the more I hid, the more I thought how smart Mom is. She knew when I snuck into the Reese cup drawer, even though she wasn't even looking. She knew when I said that I was feeding the dog, but only gave her a little bit of kibble. It was like she had eyes in the back of her head. And so I knew that I had to have a better plan. So I looked around and I opened the giant doors on the back of the yellow station wagon where the tire resides. And I took and moved that tire, and I moved inside that little hole. But I was okay. When I moved those doors down, I could still see from the 2 giant holes on the bottom. And I sat and I waited for a long time. It seemed like a really, really long time. And I heard the ignition. And I saw the gravel come up out of those holes. And I watched and I watched and I counted and I started to sweat. And I didn't know how much time was going. And I watched the road and it was moving faster and faster and it was getting blurrier and blurrier. And I said, now's the time. And I, like a jack in a box, I sprung up and said, I'm going to the blue. I'm going to the blue. That's when my mom stopped the car, looked and saw me, and her face looked like a tomato in a tornado. And she said, you're not going to the blue. We're going home. And she drove me home. I didn't get to see the blue that day, but this is a time that I did. We got there. We drove in the yellow station wagon. This time I was sitting in the chair, and we drove, and we went all the way up. And there I could see the shimmering blue lights and the giant windows. And when we walked up, there was a purple horse that, with the mere addition of a coin, you could go up and down and up and down. And time stopped. Seconds and minutes seemed like hours. And you rode this beautiful horse. And the doors, they opened all by themselves. It was a magical entrance. And when I got there, there were aisles upon aisles. There were aisles of bright candy. There were clothes of every size, even me, and I was the shortest person in the entire school. And then I heard it, or I saw it. The giant popcorn machine, unlike any other I'd never seen before. And I'll tell you a secret. They took Coke and they froze it. They called it frozen Coke. My mom said that if you drank this too fast, it would permanently freeze your brain. I don't know if that was true. She could be a kidder. And that's when I heard. Attention, Kmart shoppers. We're having a blue light special on snowblowers. I didn't even know what a snowblower was, but I had to find it. I ran to the blue light, but I stopped. And there it was, lying on the floor. I rubbed my eyes and I looked and it was still there. And I picked it up. And I knew that we had a lost and found because my mom went there to get my mittens a while ago. And I went up to the lady who was wearing a net on her head and I said, I found this. Can you please announce it on the speaker? Please? The woman with the net on her head, she picked up my $20 bill and she looked at me and she said, honey, you keep it. I'd never had so much money in my life. Never. I knew that this place was a place where magic happens. We hadn't been to Kmart for a long time. I asked my mom about it, and she just looked at me and took my hand and said, times are tough right now, honey. Times are tough. I knew they were tough, but it didn't make it any easier. It was all because of Friday the 13th. On that day, my dad was hit by a car by a man who was pretending to be a doctor. My mom said he was crazy. Dad had to go. At the time, he said everything's all right. But the next day, he couldn't move anything from the neck down. He had to go to the hospital, room 315, and he was put in the first bed that turned around and upside down. He put pictures up on the ceiling. It was the first one ever in Akron, and it just rotated like a giant Ferris wheel. One would think that that was a lot of fun, but it wasn't. I would see Dad, and even when he got out of the hospital, he wore a giant metal brace that made it very hard to hug him. He never complained, but I could tell that when he talked, he squinted, and it hurt. It was Christmas Day. It was Christmas Day. And we had our traditions. My brother, I would be on the bottom bunk of the bunk bed, and he'd be on the top. And just as I got up, his hand would grab my wrist and say, you really want to see these presents, don't you? He was much older than I was. And I would say, yes, yes. And until I screamed with the right tone, he would release me. But when I said, yes, he would release me and I would run. And my baby sister, Melinda, would always beat me to the tree. And we just stopped and we stared. And that's when Melinda looked at me and said, Santa must have missed us this year. Because when we looked out, there were just a few presents for all 6 of us kids. My mother took all of us, sat us down. I was 9 going on 10, so it had been a few years. And she sat us all on the couch and she said, we know that Christmases have been light, and Dad sat with us. And he said, we would like you to create a wish list. We don't want you to ask for very small presents this year. You can ask for very big ones. And we can talk to Santa. And you've been very, very good and understanding. We're going to get a check that'll help Daddy. And so maybe we can get these presents. My sister Pam and Sherry, they both wanted roller skates. Purple roller skates just came out. They lit up. My brother wanted a knife that had 7 blades on it. My other brother, he wanted anything sports. My sister, my baby sister, wanted a rub-a-dub dolly, soft little dolly. It'll take a bath, and a tugboat to boot. And I just didn't know what I wanted. But it was my turn to go to Kmart. It was my turn. And I got in, I sat in the front seat, and we got there, and I could see the giant windows and the blue lights that shimmered from it from the street. And when we got there, there was the beautiful carousel horse, but I was getting bigger, so I just waved. I could wave. And remember, I could wave and remember. And then the giant doors opened by themselves. It was always a magical entrance. And I looked, and there was a frozen Coke machine and everything. And I heard, attention Kmart shoppers, attention Kmart shoppers. There is a sale, there is a blue light special on Norelco razors. I didn't even know what those were, but I knew where I was going. I ran straight to the toys. And when I got to the toys, I ran straight to the toys. And when I got there, I was mesmerized. For in this giant cardboard box, there was a red plastic mountain. And inside that red plastic mountain were red orcs, red fighters, red archers, and red wizards. And best of all, there was a pulley that the warriors could ride on. It was amazing. It was like Lord of the Rings in a box. And I loved Lord of the Rings. And I just imagined me being that red wizard. Time seemed to stop, but my mother saw me, and I told her all about the box, and she listened, and I told her about the worlds that were inside that box. It was Christmas Day. Traditions continue. As soon as I got up, my brother grabbed me by the wrist and said, "You really want to open those presents, don't you?" I said, "Yes, yes, 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 yes." And finally I said yes loud enough, and he let go of me, and I ran. My sister beat me, and her eyes and mine were as big as saucers because there were presents everywhere. We ran in, and she yelled, "It's Christmas, it's Christmas, it's Christmas." And she ran into my mom and dad's room, but we could tell Dad was in too much pain. And all my brothers and sisters, we held hands and we sang, "We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas." And then we ran and we opened presents. Pam and Sherry got those roller skates and was rolling around the tree until Mom yelled, "Mike got 12 blades on that knife." Steve an autographed Cleveland Browns football. Melinda, a rub-a-dub dolly, a soft little dolly. She'll take a bath with a giant tugboat. And I opened my box and I opened it, and there it was. Oh, it was amazing. There was the mountain. I tore it open. There was the red archers, the red fighters, a red dragon, 2 red dragons, and I held the red wizard. And I was working on the pulley when my mother came up downstairs carrying another box and said, "Cav, I think this is for you too." And I looked, and I didn't want to leave my pulleys, and I didn't want to leave my red world, and I opened the box somewhat reluctantly, and when I saw what it was, I opened it more and more and more, and there it was. My mother had bought me the green mountain with the green warriors, the green dragon, and the green wizards. It's 2017. My wife can't understand why I keep going to the Kmart that's closing down. In truth, I don't know either. I don't know the reason. I tell her that it's because it's 50% off this weekend, 60% off next week, 70% off the next week. I bought a coat for 70% off, and I still haven't even worn. It wasn't until the last 2 days that it closed that I saw the rack. It was 90% off. Nothing else was that low. And I looked, and they were Halloween costumes. And there was a pirate outfit for adults, male and female. There was a Little Red Riding Hood. There was Dracula's cape. And that's when I saw it. A red wizard outfit for adults. I bought it. And when I get home, I'm going to put it on. And I'm going to wait for the magic to happen again. Attention Kmart shoppers. Attention Kmart shoppers. We're having a blue light special on imaginations. All you have to do is follow the blue.